This is Greg Allison with Green Greg's here to report to you that the attacks on our power grid are ongoing. In fact, they've been going on a little longer than you might even think. My friend Command Sergeant Major Mike Maybe, who's been on this channel several times, maybe it's time to bring him back. He's reported quite a number of times that he's got this big database where he's actually, through the Freedom of Information Act, gotten the government to report things that's happened with the power grid, and a lot of stuff they've been sweeping under the rug. But now things seem to be intensifying or picking up. Why is that? It just so happens that there have been attacks in the Pacific Northwest. And as a matter of fact, these attacks go back into mid-November. And there was just another attack just this past Wednesday in South Carolina. As you might recall, over Saturday, we had two substations attacked in Moore County, North Carolina, which was just immediately west of where I used to live in Spring Lake, North Carolina, when I was in the Army. So, guys, it's getting a little hairy. We're suddenly getting a lot of these substations hit. Fortunately, so far, fortunately, these are the smaller substations. There are certain critical substations that have taken out would put our entire power grid at risk. It's already been published and public knowledge that somewhere, we don't know exactly which ones, and we're not going to talk if we do. There are supposedly 9 critical substations that have taken out, would take down our entire national grid. In a case like that, it's not just, okay, we'll fix them, get things going again. You're talking cascading failures with these major substations burning out to the point that you could have thousands of these damaged. And I don't know if we get the grid back or not, guys. It depends on how much damage is done. So there is some things to be concerned with here. It just so happens that, and I mentioned this so many times on this channel. Oh yeah, by the way, the pundits are kind of, the political pundits who typically write articles in mainstream news media, I should say lamestream news media, are as usual blaming people on, the predominant side that most people write with, what they call that side of the spectrum, trying to not trip certain algorithms, if you know what I mean, guys. That's their usual go-to and whatever they want to blame and say and do. But as you know, I have often on this channel alluded to certain things like the fact that this data item was given to the head of the Revolutionary Guard of Iran. And his response was, 9 substations? I've already got 20 targeted with my sleeper cells. Maybe they're looking for some practice. Maybe they're getting ready to act. Maybe it's something else. I didn't say they did it. I didn't say they'd done any. I'm just telling you what he said he had in his hip pocket should they get in a conflict in the United States. And that's something brewing. We've got a lot of tension with North Korea. We got a lot of tension with China right now. We got a lot of tension with Russia right now. There's internal tensions on both sides of the spectrum. So coming down and saying, forget it, guys. The problem is it's happening. It's happening. And this is what you need to be prepared for. You need to be prepared that your grid may go down. This is what you need to prep. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the activities here. We're going to paint a little bit of the picture. Oh, yeah, by the way, the Metcalf station, of course, was attacked 16 April 2013. And it happened to be the exact same day that the Korean satellite first flew over Washington, D.C. And at the very time, they had the Chung Chung Ging trap steamer running around in the Caribbean and possibly the Gulf of Mexico with 2 missiles mounted on their missile launchers hidden in ISO shipping containers. I'm not saying North Korea is responsible for the attack on the Metcalf substation, but you can't rule it out either, can you? Especially with all these other coincidences. Don't say Greg said it was this or that. I don't know. But it's highly interesting. So this whole idea, you blame these, all the journalists, almost all of them, I'm not going there, guys. Now, I have shared some articles with some people, and some of these articles do talk their usual whatever. I just share these articles for the knowledge that things are happening, things are going down, something's cooking. Now, somebody wants to jump these conclusions and think this is wrong one. No, never said those kind of things in my videos on my channel. I won't go there. You know better. You know that. So, guys, let's talk about it here. Let's get into what is actually happening. Now, law enforcement agents in Washington have confirmed that they received a note from our good friends, wink, nod, all that stuff, right? From the FBI, alerting them to the potential attacks on power plants in the Pacific Northwest. You know, you might know that I'm somewhat less than the absolute biggest fan member of their fan club. Somewhat less. You know what I mean. Yeah, it makes you wonder when they're sending stuff out if some of this stuff might be makes you wonder. I'm just saying it is or isn't. No. Just sometimes it makes you wonder. Makes you wonder. Anyway, the memo. What was stated in it? It said power companies in Oregon and Washington have reported physical attacks on substations using hand tools, arson, firearms, and metal chains in response to online call for attacks, possibly on critical infrastructure. And in recent attacks, criminal actors bypass security by cutting fence links, lighting nearby fires, shooting equipment from a distance, and throwing objects over the fence to get onto the equipment. Well, I think most of us know, and I've shown where it had been practiced that some drones could drop a wire between the positive and negative lines, and the wires coming out from substations one way to short them out and burn out the transformers. Maybe they're doing that with chains. Maybe they're finding some way to toss those chains across. I don't know. That's a heck of a toss, especially with the chain. So, that's a bit of a stretch, but who knows? That kind of reminds me of hand tools. Oh yeah, I know how to do it with hand tools, and so do a lot of other people. If you know what substations are and the transformers are, this is something you're going to know. It's not rocket science. I don't know, something about rocket science, maybe, right? So anyway, guys, this is critical. So apparently, as I stated earlier, 2 different substations in late November in Washington State, they had these attacks. And these 2 incidences, supposedly, according to Puget Sound Energy, occurred in their area. And that's one of the biggest power companies in the state of Washington. And they had a spokesperson for their Bonneville power station, Doug Johnson. He stated the following. He said, early on Thanksgiving morning, we had an attack on one of our substations in Clackamas, Oregon. It was deliberate. There's no question that somebody meant to do it. It looked like they used something sharp to cut through the fence, and that's designed to keep people out the fence. Yeah, okay. I meant to add Oregon to you. Washington State and Oregon are apparently getting hit. So that's the thing to bear in mind. Now, fortunately, though, the tens of thousands of power consumers in North Carolina who are impacted by the substation outages from last Saturday have had their electricity turned to them as of Wednesday night after spending 4 days without it. Now, of course, Wednesday, somebody hits a substation in where? South Carolina. It too was under the purview of Duke Power. Duke Power serves both North and South Carolina. As you might recall, when those hits took place in Moore County, they said, well, we've apprehended 2 suspects. And they wouldn't rule. The law enforcement was professional. They wouldn't rule, at least the local law enforcement. They weren't accusing who was or who wasn't involved. They just said it was under investigation. Under investigation. And so they didn't know if they hit everybody. And apparently somebody else had it up their crawl to attack a substation Wednesday. Now, are they part of the same organization? Is it a copycat? Is it just a case of, oh, look, the effect they had here, I can do this over here. Is that it? I don't know. But given that these attacks are going on the Pacific Northwest, now they're occurring, and that wasn't advertised a lot. Nobody talked about that a lot. I mean, these attacks in the Carolinas look a whole lot like the attacks apparently in Washington and Oregon, according to some sources. And according to some sources, they looked a lot like the attacks at the Metcalf station. So here's what I worry about. What I worry about is that these attacks were again, not your most critical substations. That's the good news so far, but you got to wonder, maybe they're just not ready to do that yet. Maybe they are practicing to see what they can do and what they can get away with before they go big time. Try run type exercises. Maybe. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's just some disgruntled employees. That's a possibility. That was our first suspicion when it hit Moore County. But then again, when you discover this is going up in the Pacific Northwest, it's going on in Duke, all throughout Duke Power region down in South Carolina now. And what else is there that's getting swept under the rug? What do we not know about? We had that Metcalf station attack back in 2013, April 16th to be precise, which was a very interesting day in the history of things that we'd worry about with our power grid. So anyway, guys, we often believe there's going to be an attack. It'll be a multi-pronged attack. There'll be heavy hacking. There'll be physical attacks, possible EMP attacks. If somebody really wants to take our power grid down, they would probably come at some many different methods. And it's quite doable, unfortunately. So I'm going to share some things with y'all. I'm going to share some websites, and I'm going to share a little bit of this PowerPoint, and then we're going to call it a video. I said that on purpose like that. What channel, what show did they used to call it that on? Yeah, I'm having a hard time getting people to guess that one. All right. So we'll go share. And we're going to go right here. String of grid attacks in Pacific Northwest is unsolved. Oh yeah, here they're talking about at least 6 electric substations in the region. At least 2 by people with firearms. As you heard earlier, some of this is with tools, power tools, probably. Well, they might use power tools to cut through the fence, but hey, there's all kind of snippers out there that can do that kind of nasty work, okay? Fortunately, right now, nobody in the country is without power in a major, at least anything that show up on this chart here at poweroutage.us. You can always check there to see what's cooking. And again, here's that Duke facility in South Carolina that was hit. And this is the earlier hits that I showed you, this article from the Fayetteville Observer, which used to be the main paper in the town, big city closest to me when I lived in North Carolina. So there you go, my friends. I'm going to stop that share. And I told you I'm going to spend a lot of time on this. And I'm going to come over here to look at